Hello, I'm FKX Toycat, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who sees the peaceful difficulty as a little bit of a cop-out. I mean, sure, it technically exists to allow certain players to avoid all hostile mobs so they can make the Minecraft experience easier and avoid the build-ruining creeper, of course, but the truth is, when you play a Minecraft game mode which just doesn't have any punishment for, failure, when you play a Minecraft game mode which removes most of the mobs from the game, a lot of the fun goes along with it. There are so many activities you can't do in Minecraft Peaceful that you can on other difficulties, and that's why people always switch over, right? But the most recent updates have been trying to change that at least a little. 1.13 and 1.14 both made huge strides towards making Peaceful a more playable game mode. Take, for instance, the bones. They used to be only obtainable from skeletons, so if you wanted bone meal, that was your only way to get them, but now what you can do, beyond killing fish, is you can also obviously take a composter from the Village and Pillage update, and you can get yourself some bone meal this way, using some naturally farmed ingredients so that no animals need to die. If you wanted to get slime balls before, you had to kill slimes, right? I mean, it's right in the name, but now you can find a wandering trader in your Minecraft world, and you can trade, albeit at a super marked up price, for all sorts of goodies that you previously couldn't find in Peaceful mode. They're adding new ways to get all sorts of things all the time, and it's making Minecraft Peaceful a more playable game, surprisingly. In today's video, I wanted to talk about the things you can't do in Peaceful still, because there is surprisingly few of them, especially post 1.16, and I want to talk about the things you can do, because you're going to be shocked when you learn that the Ender Dragon does exist here in Peaceful, and indeed, we're going to be fighting it to show you the weird world of Minecraft Peaceful, and there are fresh challenges that come only in Peaceful mode because of the weird limitations only found right here. But let's dive into it first of all by talking about exactly what you can't do in Minecraft's Peaceful mode. So of course, on Peaceful difficulty, no hostile mobs will spawn. Even if you try to use spawn eggs or you try to use a summon command to get them in there, they physically cannot exist in the world on Peaceful difficulty. There are a few exceptions to this rule. So the polar bear, of course, it's not a hostile mob by default, but if it has a child around, it will be hostile. Not on Peaceful. Even if you attack a polar bear head on, the polar bear doesn't care. Instead, the polar bear will just try and run away from you because that's kind of nice like that. But the more surprising ones that you'll find in the overworld are the Vindicator and the Evoker. That's right, both of these mobs exist on Peaceful, but unlike in every other difficulty, when you attack them, they will not fight back. In fact, they'll try to run away from you, it seems. And since they won't fight back, this means you can get yourself some very easy loot from the Willow Mansions, because both the mobs will spawn there, and this means you actually can get the Totem of Undying even on Peaceful difficulty. So this was a 1.11 feature, and you can see how it's a recent focus on making hostile mobs exist on Peaceful, just in weird ways, because if we take the Nether as an example, the Hoglins also will spawn right there, except they won't ever be hostile towards you, and if we take the End as an example, the Shulkers will also spawn and you can kill them, but they'll never attack you back. So basically, there are 5 hostile mobs in Minecraft that will spawn even on Peaceful difficulty. There are 2 mobs which used to be hostile towards the player on Peaceful difficulty. Those mobs were the Llama and the Wolf. However, as of 1.16, they've both been fixed, so now when you attack them, you monster by the way, now when you attack them, they just look at you, give you a sad face and say, why did you do that to me? I didn't deserve that, right? So yeah, there are no mobs that will actually attack you back on this difficulty, besides the obvious one we've left out, but we'll come back to the dragon in a second, because if you want to fight the dragon, you might think, what are we going to need besides Totems of Undying? We're going to need potions, right? And one of the cool changes they made in 1.14 is they allowed you to find brewing stands out in the wild, because obviously the cleric villagers are going to require some of these brewing stands, so now you can find brewing stands, which means potions are on the table, right? Except also, just before that update, they made it so that brewing stands required blaze rods, and this means that you actually can't brew potions if you play exclusively on Peaceful difficulty, because you need blaze powder for the brewing stand to work, and you can't get blaze powder in survival because you can't get blaze rods. Blaze rods are one of the 6 items in 1.16 which are still unobtainable in Peaceful difficulty in any way, because you cannot get blaze rods from trading, you cannot get them from any other source, and you cannot get blaze powder without blaze rods, and therefore you cannot craft your own potion stand. You can only take them from the world, but even if you do get a potion stand from a village or an igloo, you still cannot do anything with them, which I think is brutal. So interestingly, of course, ocean monuments still exist here on Peaceful difficulty, but they exist minus the mobs which make them so annoying. There are no guardians and no elder guardians protecting you from these things, which means that you actually can go through them relatively easy. You can theoretically drown to death in Peaceful, however, it takes a very long time for your hunger bar to actually adjust to this fact, as you can see, and it means that you can spend as much time exploring these guys and finding the gold blocks as you like. However, we are talking about blocks that are missing from survival right here, so let's talk about the fact that, hey, even though you can get all of the blocks found here in the Ocean Monument, you cannot get something called the Prismarine Shard. This is found as a drop from a Guardian or an Elder Guardian, and although it's only used for the crafting recipes, to make the Dark Prismarine, to make the Prismarine bricks, etc., it does mean that you cannot make any of those, you cannot get a Prismarine Shard here in Peaceful, which sounds like no big deal because, well, you can just mine the Prismarine bricks, you can mine the Dark Prismarine, you can mine the Sea Lanterns, etc. However, there is the key asterisk that unlike on easy, normal, and hard difficulty, where you can effectively obtain an infinite number of all of these blocks by killing Guardians for as long as you like, on Peaceful difficulty, you can only get as many blocks as exist the Ocean Monuments in the world, which means that Prismarine is not a renewable resource here on Peaceful difficulty. So effectively, only this block is missing, but all of the blocks found in the Ocean Monument are therefore not renewable, and that changes how you need to play the game here on Peaceful. In reality, again, most Peaceful players probably don't care about it on too big of a level, but it is worth mentioning as a thing, right? Also, look, we found some oxygen, and now we don't die from the suffocation, which we already weren't dying from. But yeah, Ocean Monuments are a significantly easier task here in Peaceful, but as a result of that, you cannot find Guardians without going to a different difficulty, and therefore you cannot find an infinite number of these blocks, as you can for blocks like wood, as you can for blocks like cobblestone, as you can for so many other blocks in Minecraft that can be farmed, because you cannot farm Ocean Monuments because there's nothing to farm from them. While we're underwater anyway, let's talk about the third item you can't find here in Peaceful, because yeah, if you're underneath the sea floor, you might be used to seeing drowns around here. They're super annoying, they throw their tridents at you, right? However, something you might not think about the fact is that that's the only way to find tridents out here in Minecraft. If you want to get yourself a trident, you have to get a drowned, but if you're playing Peaceful difficulty, no drowns will spawn, which means you cannot find Minecraft's most powerful, by default, unenchanted at least, melee weapon that exists here in Peaceful. So no tridents for you, no trident enchantments for you. That means no Riptide, that means no loyalty, that means no impaling. That's right, if you want to kill fish, you have to use a netherite sword like the rest of us, although that already kills them in one hit. So in reality, because you don't have to worry about Guardians, impaling isn't so important, but you won't be able to make a loyalty or a Riptide trident, which is a shame because it means you miss one of the coolest weapons in Minecraft. So if you do make it to the Nether, which is surprisingly easy to do here on Peaceful, you'll find a Nether fortress which is entirely empty. There are no blazes here, of course, and there are no wither skeletons found here either. It's a very spookily empty place that just has no real purpose to exist, but the key thing about this is I said there are no wither skeletons, and this means you can't find wither skeleton skulls. The wither is not fightable on a pure Peaceful run, which means that you cannot, again, so you can't find the wither, of course, because it's a hostile mob. Even if you could get the wither skeleton skulls together, you wouldn't be able to spawn it in, but that means not only can you get a wither skeleton skull, you cannot get yourself a Nether star, and you can't get yourself a beacon as a result. One of Minecraft's most powerful late game items is not available here on Peaceful, and that is a darn shame. However, bear in mind that it's not just the lack of blazes, indeed from spawners or just spawning wild, and the lack of wither skeletons here in the Nether. The rest of the Nether is pretty darn quiet as well. Every single other mob that spawns here in the Nether prior to 1.16 will not spawn, so this means you cannot find the ghasts, and indeed their ghast tiers, so no potions of regeneration for you, no end crystals for you either, and yeah, this is a real depressing thing because the Nether is such an eerie place. It doesn't feel right being in a Nether where there is nothing around whatsoever, but here we are regardless. However, if you do head over to a Crimson Forest, or if you're lucky and you find one in a Nether Waste, you can still find piglins here in the Nether, so that's kind of nice. One of the things you used to not be able to find was also the magma creams, but in 1.16 they have finally decided to rectify this. Again, you can see every update they bring one feature closer to coming to the game, because now the list is 6 instead of 7, because there is a small chance, I say a small chance, but it's really about 1 in 20 or so, that you'll get yourself magma creams. But I just traded an entire stack of gold nuggets with a guy and didn't get anything. So you just have to take my word for that one. I'll show you the loot table. But the interesting thing about this loot table that the piglin does have is pretty much every type of Minecraft player will find something different they like about the piglins. I mean, sure, if you're a Peaceful player, you love the fact that now you can get at least one type of potion here in survival. Admittedly, not the most useful one, but maybe it's one that you're really big on. You can get a useful potion here in survival. If you are a regular survival player, you might really appreciate the enchanted books of soul speed or the boots, which the piglin has taken for himself for some reason. If you are a technical Minecraft player, you love that this is a renewable source of Nether quartz. And if you're a speedrunner, maybe you just value the fact that, heck yeah, this is a way to get some ender pearls. And also, if you're a peaceful Minecraft player that doesn't want to kill things, string and leather easily obtainable. I mean, there's just so many things you can say about what the piglin gives you, but it really gives you a whole bunch of opportunities in survival that you couldn't otherwise get just by farming gold, and I love that if nothing else. I know I shouldn't dwell on this too much, but seriously, 1.16 makes Peaceful a more interesting place because the Nether now has an extra purpose. Finding the piglin bastions is extra worthwhile on Peaceful because unlike on other difficulties, the piglins will never attack you. Even if you mine their precious gold blocks, which again is a pretty important thing, they don't really care about it, which means you can take the gold blocks straight from the piglin's mouse. You can then, if you want to, take it straight into gold ingots, and then you can use it to get these valuable new items, and who doesn't love that? Selling the piglin's, fortress right back to them, and yeah, again, it's super easy. Even stuff like this, like big fall that should be super terrifying. Oh no, I have to wait 6 seconds for my health to come back. There just isn't really a lot of threat, and as a result, you can get some great things, and you can get some, also, the mob spawner doesn't even work. You can get all of the gold with none of the risk, and yeah, Peaceful makes the piglin bastion a little too easy, but also a great thing if you're playing Peaceful. You probably don't care about too easy, right? When playing Peaceful, my solution to full damage is this, by the way. You can die from a big enough fall on Peaceful, but all you have to do to avoid it is just make it lots of smaller falls and wait a couple of seconds, and you can get past that. Anyway, the reason I'm taking so much full damage today is because I wanted to talk about the end next, because the end is technically accessible on Peaceful mode. However, technically with a big asterisk, because the 6th item that you can't find on Peaceful mode is a bit of a controversial one right here, because in theory, you can access the end in Peaceful. All you need to do is find a portal which has 12 IF enders already filled out. What are the odds of finding a portal with 12 IF enders filled out? Well, for every stronghold that generates, it's a 1 in a trillion chance. This means that although there have been a few seeds with a 12 eye portal found on Java, after literally hundreds of hours of rigorously searching billions of seeds, billions and billions and billions and billions, after all of those seed searching, eventually a few portals were found over there, but here on the Bedrock version, there isn't even 1 trillion seeds that exist. It is very unlikely that any seed has a 12 IF ender portal as the closest one to spawn, but because you can keep on finding new portals in your Minecraft world, in theory, one Minecraft seed out there might have a portal somewhere in that world. It just might be hundreds of thousands of blocks away from spawn that is fully filled out, and therefore, technically speaking, on any Minecraft world, you might find a fully lit portal, because otherwise you cannot go to the end. You need ender pearls and you need blaze rods, and therefore, is the end really accessible? I'll leave that for you to decide. If the end is accessible on Peaceful, then the shulker and the shulker box that you can get from killing it and getting the Shaka Shell is theoretically obtainable, and it's very easy to obtain because, again, they don't fight back because it's Peaceful, right? You can get yourself some Shaka Shells, you can get some shulker boxes very, very easily. However, if the end isn't accessible, and again, on the vast majority of seeds it isn't, and even on the tiny minority of seeds where it might be, you'll have no human chance of finding it or doing so, but again, theoretically you can, and if you can get yourself some shulker shells. If you can get some chorus fruits that otherwise you cannot. If you can get some end stones, some end bricks. This also, of course, includes the things found on the end ships, which, as you can see, is going to include a couple of potions, which you otherwise wouldn't be able to get. Instant health too, by the way. But what much more importantly, the elytra is unobtainable in Peaceful at least, unless you can get to the end. And can you get to the end? Yes, asterisks. I think we've definitely got ahead of ourselves though, because most people, before going to the, the end lands, are going to first consider taking down the Ender Dragon first. So this is the Ender Dragon in Minecraft. The Ender Dragon, which by the way, will still attack you and which still can do damage to you, pretty bad damage too. An Ender Dragon which fully will fight you even here on Peaceful difficulty. It's really weird in my opinion, because basically Minecraft says you can't fight the dragon on Peaceful by making it almost impossible to get to the end, but in spite of that fact, they've coded in the exception for when the dragon is here on Peaceful difficulty. So yeah, even when we're playing on Peaceful, we can still fight the dragon. and the dragon can still very much fight us back if she wants to. I'd even argue the fight is almost as hard as it is in every other difficulty, with the key exception being the fact that you have super fast healing. But yeah, if you take a big fall from one of those towers, as you very likely are to, you can die. End acid is one of the very few things that can kill you even here on peaceful difficulty, unlike suffocation, unlike, you know, like a lot of other things that, you know, drowning. There's so many full damage from lots of small falls. Lots of things can kill you on other difficulties that won't kill you on peaceful, but the exception to that is the dragon, which you still have to have a very much normal fight with, just as a fun fact. If I had to guess, this whole fight only exists not because they intend for you to ever get to the end on peaceful, but instead because of the fact that some players, when they encounter a lot of mobs, they realize that all you have to do to make them go away is go to peaceful difficulty. In fact, you might have noticed how this whole fight has no enderman. That's because of that exact same thing, where when you're on peaceful, no mobs will spawn and all existing mobs will despawn. So some players were clearly thinking like, haha, what I'll cleverly do is I'll take the difficulty off easy and I'll turn it onto peaceful, I'll kill the dragon and I won't have to deal with the end fight. So I'm assuming they only left the ender dragon here on peaceful just because your odds of getting here on peaceful alone are very low, so therefore you're gonna have to fight the dragon if you want to get out of here. That's the only assumption I can come to, because again, if we try to remove every mob here, like we can do with the enderman will instantly despawn, as will every other hostile mob, but the dragon will not. The dragon stays there with her same health, with her same ability to fire these end acid balls that can seriously wreck you, and that was a very interesting decision indeed, a decision which I can only really put down thank you very much, dragon. A decision which I can only really put down to the fact that they wanted to just avoid people choosing the ender dragon, and given that most players playing peaceful, if they came here anyway, if they went through all of that effort, they'd know what they were getting themselves into. No Minecraft player is ever going to load up a world, accidentally find a 12-eye portal, which, by the way, you wouldn't even be able to find naturally because eye-offenders don't exist, so you have to find that portal naturally by digging underground. It has to be one of the 1 in a trillion that has the 12 eyes, and then you have to go to the end and hop in the portal without knowing what the dragon is. No one's doing that. If you come to the end, you're ready for a fight, and Minecraft apparently agrees with that fact. The interesting thing about killing the ender dragon, though, is the fact that even once you do it, you're still kind of hindered in this dimension, because sure, you can go back to where you came from, you can go back to the overworld, you can even grab yourself a dragon egg, you can grab yourself an elytra before you do all of those things, if you really want to. However, something you interestingly can't do is respawn the dragon and fight it again. You can fight the dragon the one time that you can, because there's no ghast tears, remember, because of the lack of ghasts, which means there's no way to respawn the ender dragon. You fight the dragon once, you get one portal, you go through it, and that is your time in the end done. So yeah, the end really isn't designed for peaceful, but technically speaking, it does work, and the only mob in the game that deals damage to you, and especially damage that can kill you very easily, is the ender dragon. And sure, the fight is a lot easier on peaceful than other difficulties, but it's still a real fight, and I find it fascinating that someone, somewhere, eventually, if Minecraft goes on for long enough, and enough people play peaceful, will end up getting into this fight by accident, and will be very confused as to why there is a very hostile ender dragon. But realistically speaking, it hasn't happened yet, it won't happen for a while, and that's why it's an edge case scenario, which I have to mention as like, oh yeah, it's a thing that's happened, but also sort of not really. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope it was informative, taught you about the woes of the survival peaceful player. It's a super interesting part of Minecraft that I'd love to see them improve and work on some more, because obviously when I hear this I think, man, getting blaze powder via some other method really would make sense. But the reason I think they should add a peaceful method to things like the blaze powder is because it helps out the rest of us too. I mean, that might sound kind of dumb, but think about it like this. The ender pearl is a item that was only meant to be gotten via killing endermen, and then they made it via stronghold chests so you could get a few extra to top up your supply, and then they added trading for them, which was a really cool way that you could get them without having to deal with this whole mess of endermen spawning, and it was a fast way to get them if you wanted to get them en masse by doing a different system. And now you can get them via bartering, and you can also find endermen in different places. Like, by adding new ways to get items, you change the way that people play Minecraft and make more fun ways to do it if people don't find a particular system fun. And blaze rods right now require going to the Nether fortress. Maybe they want to keep that in the game and that's why they've never changed it, but blaze powder should be obtainable another way because you need it for potions. I feel like ghast tears definitely should be obtainable another way. Getting to the end should be done a different way, so all of those end specific items I mentioned can be found in an entirely different way. And then maybe we should think about the fact that, like, well, if the Ender Dragon's available on Peaceful anyway, might as well let people respawn them, and might as well let people have their fight with the Wither so they can get a beacon as well. And maybe they should have some Tridents for that fight. I don't know, maybe I'm dreaming too high. I honestly think Peaceful is a part of the game that I don't consider very often, but obviously a lot of people do play it. It makes sense that Minecraft should have difficulties that actually work. Minecraft Bedrock's been doing a good job at this for a while, but, you know, both Minecraft Java and Bedrock need to improve as far as their Peaceful game for, you know, the future of the game. And I love that every update, they're considering it a little bit. As we mentioned in this video, every update since 1.9 has done something for Peaceful players, and even though I'm never going to be one of them, Peaceful is just not my game mode. It was a fun little experiment for today, but never again. And that is a good way to subscribe, hopefully you, and feeling not subscribed to this channel. Did you know that most people who watch these videos aren't subscribed? And did you know that subscribing is easy to do and free? Yeah, you obviously knew that. But the reason I'm going to ask you to subscribe to me today is because, hey, most YouTubers will be like, hey, you can do it, and then you smash it, and it's real cool. No, I'll tell you, you subscribe, it's good for me, but hopefully, if you enjoy this video, it's good for you too, because you can see more like it every single day on your channel. Thank you for watching this one, because I'll see you all next time. Goodbye. Look at my Elytra. You know, I might have these in Peaceful, but here I am anyway. Absolute rebel. I guess something you could say about Peaceful difficulty is that it's made some great strides in the Nether update. Haha, I am very funny. But no, this is a real feature. I just wanted to include it at the end here and make a dumb joke, because that's what we do here on the channel. Yeah, that's a reason to subscribe.